He's been called the greatest stand-up comedian this country has ever produced. But personally, I think that may be an understatement. Chatting to Dave Hughes today, what shines through is not only his natural gift to see the humour in everything, but his grounded and insightful perspective on life. From humble beginnings in the country town of Warrnambool, Hughesy has made a name for himself on the world stage of comedy. And for very good reason. He explains how he uses criticism and knockbacks to motivate and inspire him, and how he finds his failures often make the best material. Dave, well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so wonderful to have you on.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate the invite.
No worries at all.
Yeah.
So, Hughesy, you've been making people laugh for decades, but I don't know about you, but surely is there one person in your life that just never laughs at your jokes?
Look, who would never laugh at my jokes? But my son's probably a hard one. I think he's funnier than me, so that's I'm like, yeah, sure you are. You're better basketball than Michael Jordan as well. And so so he's probably the hardest one to make laugh. Although he does love a laugh, so maybe he's just biased against me. But yeah, so he's probably the. But yeah, so that's anyway, but we still get along really well. So
yeah, he's a typical teenage boy, I think, and they're a little bit too cool for their parents most of the time, aren't they? So now, when you're not on stage, though, what makes you laugh the most?
Good question. I think I laugh the most when I'm not meant to laugh. So, I'm not doing full-time radio at the moment, but whenever I would try to broach a serious subject on radio or some celebrity had died or something, and I just would get the giggles. And I'm not trying to be mean, but just knowing that I shouldn't be laughing. So when you know you shouldn't laugh is when you want to laugh, and that's probably the most fun I have in my life is giggling when I'm not meant to be giggling. So
I guess you've probably done a lot of material based on that as well then. You know, things are not meant to be funny.
Sometimes I remember, over the years, sometimes you just couldn't even speak because like hysterics. So on radio it would sound pretty weird. It's like almost like I was having a stroke or something. So, but the fact is, I've got the giggles when I definitely shouldn't have the giggles. So.
Oh dear, sometimes obviously inappropriate, but still. So look, you've done radio, TV, stand-up, but what's the weirdest gig you've ever done?
Look, I've done a lot of weird gigs. I once, years ago, I had got a private gig in Toorak, and so I got to this mansion in Toorak, and I was met at the sort of door by the wife of the guy whose birthday it was, and she said, "Can you wear my husband's tennis clothes?" So I said, "Sure." Yeah, so I wore the husband's tennis clothes, and she said he's just been sacked from his job. So, and at the time I did routines about being on the dial. So she wanted me to do my routines about being on the dial while wearing his tennis clothes and carrying his tennis racket. And so I did that in the lounge room in front of probably 25, maybe 20 people, including an elderly grandmother who were just sitting there thinking, what bewildered. So I actually, that guy in question was at a show I did recently, actually, and he said, "Remember me?" And then I said, "Not really." He goes, "I'm the guy who's, you wore my tennis clothes," and then I did remember the night. So so he still remembers it 20 years later or 25 years later.
It's a very odd request, so
it was an odd request, but I'll do anything.
Yeah. I love that. Now, if comedy hadn't worked out, though, what would you have done, do you think? Because I know you did study accounting for a little bit and a few different jobs. Like, is there anything else you could have seen yourself doing?
Yeah, my first uni degree was at Swinburne. It was information technology, actually, so in 1989. So just before the internet started. So that was the first year they offered the course of information technology. So I didn't really see the future in computing. I didn't realise which way the world was going. So no. I quit that information technology degree after about 6 weeks, to be honest. So I don't think computing was my go. Coding is so boring. I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't get the marks to get into law, but then I did a couple of law subjects in my business degree, and they were so boring as well. I was glad I didn't get the marks. Look, I'm probably a classic ADHD when I look back on it, all the symptoms that I've been able to get through high school, but with uni and your it was hard for focus. But maybe real estate. I love looking at real estate, so maybe I would have been a dodgy real estate agent. I think so.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, cool. Well, that's certainly a market that I don't think AI will be taking over anytime soon. So never too late. Now, I know you've said that you realised at 14, so you're quite young, that comedy was it. That was what you wanted to do. But what about before that, when you were little? Did you have any other dreams or hopes when you were really little?
Look, yeah, sports star. I just wanted to be a sporting hero. So whether it was AFL or cricket or tennis or golf or soccer, my dreams every night in bed were winning trophies and kicking the winning goal or hitting the winning run or winning Wimbledon at tennis. So I was obsessed with sport, very competitive, and so most of my time was spent either reliving some minor glory I had or reliving some minor disaster. So it was all sporting related basically until I sort of thought about comedy at the age of around 14.
So why didn't you pursue the sport though?
I sort of did. I was very keen on AFL, and I was hoping to make it as an AFL footballer. It didn't happen. So at the age of 24, I quit when I was playing reserves for Bentley in the Southern League in Melbourne. And I probably thought, and I remember I did a lap with the senior captain, the guy who was in charge of the senior team, and he told me to focus on my comedy. So I probably decided to quit that day. So, and he was right. So
that's harsh.
Yeah, but it was fair.
Okay, so then at 14 or up until 24, you were still thinking about maybe AFL. Why didn't you go? But then you had that revelation at 14. Why didn't you jump straight into comedy? Like, why? Is it just? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was from a country town, so there was no stand-up comedy nights in Warrnambool where I grew up. It's a town of 30,000 people, or 25,000 probably then, back in the 80s. And so it was an odd. I didn't really tell anyone about my comedy dream, to be honest. So it was, because I mean, the irony is I didn't want to be laughed at. So. When I remember I did tell my parents, when I was 21, I think I might have just turned 22 when I first started doing stand-up, even though I'd thought about it for, 6 or 8 years. When I first told my parents I was doing stand-up comedy, they were like, we are going to be paying this guy's rent for the rest of his life. So it was, it took a few years for them to come around to the idea that there was a future in it for me. So, yeah.
No, I love it. And what inspired you to get into comedy in the first place?
I just love to laugh, and if I saw a comedy movie or a comedy TV series when I was a kid, I remember I think maybe some of The Naked Gun or Flying High or that sort of movie, which I would laugh at, and then I would get my friends to watch as well, and I would enjoy watching them laugh. So I love that sort of, organising people to laugh even as a kid, even though it wasn't me getting the laughs. It was just a joy to be around people who were laughing. So, and I could see the silliness of life. And then I did a few speeches at school. They weren't meant to be funny, but somehow I made them funny. So whenever I got on stage, I was able to make people laugh. I wasn't an extrovert as a kid, but get me on a stage and then all of a sudden something would take over and I'd be able to get laughs. So that's when I remember grade 6 actually. It was a school play and on a school camp, and I remember getting big laughs just being part of the play. So that was probably the first time I really remember getting laughs from being on stage with this school camp in grade 6. So, and that went through secondary college. When I got a chance, I would get a laugh, but often in meant to be serious situations. I failed 2 subjects in high school for my whole high school journey. One was woodwork, so I was hopeless. I just didn't know how to do woodwork. And the other one was year 11 religious education. And I failed that subject, I know, because I did a speech for the class and just had the whole class in hysterics. And the class they had to the classmates had to judge your speech, and I got straight 10s across the board. So But the Christian brother who was taking the class didn't think it was. So,
No.
and he failed me. So anyway, but that was actually really that speech probably cemented what I wanted to do, even though it ended up failing religious education that year.
It's probably the most serious subject, in all honesty, isn't it? Like where you'd least expect it to be funny.
I know. I was meant to be talking about a potential saint. I know her name. Sally Trench was her name. She was a woman who lived in London who helped homeless people, and so there was some talk of her becoming a saint. So. But I had not really written a speech. I just thought, I've got to do a speech on Sally Trent. So I just opened a book and just started reading out of it. But I was able to do it in a way that made everyone laugh. So
I was going to say, that just screams comedy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like...
it does. So, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, once you had made the decision to get into comedy, was there someone who was like a mentor or an advocate or someone who supported you along the way?
Yeah, I started in Perth, so I was from country Victoria, and I'd spent a bit of time in Melbourne studying. And but I was living in Warrnambool when I decided to move to Perth after failing a business degree, or just dropping a business degree down at the local uni in Warrnambool. And so I drove over there from Warrnambool to Perth, which is about 40-hour car trip with a mate of mine in his panel van. His name was Rat Day, or his nickname is Rat. And so when living in Perth, away from everyone I knew, apart from a few mates over there, I thought I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And so there was a little comedy club in Perth, which I rang up, and they said, come along to the open mic night, or the tryout section of the evening, which is on a Wednesday night. And so my first gig was terrible. No one laughed at all. I was so embarrassed and humiliated and thought my life is a joke. And I'm never going to be able to make a living. I'm a deluded dickhead. So when you're having those thoughts on stage, it's not good for comedy.
That's not good.
So when your self-pity is at a level of 10, and there's probably there's probably a reason the audience are not laughing. So
no, exactly. You're too in your head.
It was humiliating. And I remember I got home that night. I was in a share house with Rat. He was a bricklayer, or he's still a bricklayer. But and he said, "How'd you go?" And I said, "Not very good." And he said, "Do you know why?" And I said, "Not really." And then Rat looked at me and goes, "You're just not funny." So that was the support I had from friends back in the day. So, but you know what? I went back the very next week. I thought, if I don't do this again straight away, I'm never going to do it. So very next week I went back and had another go, and it went better. So it was So, but then the third time I did it was the night. Probably I need to thank that I didn't do it for a few months because it was so stressful. But then I saw an ad in the local West Australian newspaper. It said new comedians required. I didn't know who put the ad in the paper, but I thought I'm a new comedian. So I rang the number, and it was actually the same venue that I'd had those two previous gigs at. And the older comedian who answered the phone, Don Smith's his name, he said, I said, I want to have a go. And he goes, oh, hang on, I remember that voice. I said, I remember you. He said, I remember you. And he said, you weren't that bad. Come along. And so that was enough encouragement for me to come along for another go. And that third gig is when I just walked on stage relaxed. I just had a moment of just relaxing as I walked on stage, and just something said to me, this doesn't matter. You're a winner just by doing this. The result doesn't matter. And that was in my head for whatever reason. And that third gig, for my mind, I'm still chasing a laugh. I got that on that night because that was intoxicating. Wow. So I floated out of the venue that night like I found what I want to do with my life. So, so there wasn't really too many mentors. Although you always do remember older comedians who help you on the way. So, and you remember the ones who don't as well. So,
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and some did help me for sure.
Wow. So obviously that third gig was when you went, I can do this. This is it.
Yeah.
What about the flip side? Was there ever a time after that where you were entrenched in this career where you went, oh, crap, I actually don't know if this is going to work out?
Yeah, look, so that was in 1993. And so, look, I was still, receiving unemployment checks or unemployment benefits, or I was on the dole till 1998, I think. So, so I was like, so 5 more years I was not making a living at it. So, and that's that's it. I remember seeing guys who I'd started that information technology course with a few years later, and and I'm asking, they're asking, and they're on $200,000.
Yeah, right.
In the 90s. So And they're like, "How are you going?" I'm like, well, I just got rent assistance, so that's good. So, but
Go
so
for
there
the
was a few
sponsorship.
years, but up until 19, I knew I had it, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. So it was so much fun. It was just a great thing. I loved what I was doing. But yeah, there was not much money coming in, and a bit. I'd get cash gigs, but not enough to get off the dole. So, I wouldn't tell it. I wouldn't tell it. Anyway, I was being illegal, but I paid it all back. But 1999 actually, I'd already been on TV.
Yep.
I did a really good spot on Hey Hey It's Saturday one night, so that was
Yep.
that was a dream come true to be on that show as a bona fide comedian, and it went really well. But the jokes I was doing was about being on the dole actually the first time I was on, and it went really well. And I thought I'd be famous straight away, and it didn't really happen. I remember going back into the dole office the week after I'd been on TV, and I thought they'd all give me a standing ovation, but they didn't even see it, I don't think. So anyway, but 99, it all came together, to be honest. And I went on the Comedy Festival Gala, which is on every year during the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and my spot just kicked for whatever reason. It just hit. It hit, and and then my audience started coming to my shows, and that's when I knew. 99, I knew that financially I'd already knew I'd made the right decision because I love my life.
Yeah.
But 99, I knew I'd made the financially right decision because money started coming in, and I was off the dole, and then never had to worry about money ever since, to be honest.
And no looking back after that.
No, for my parents especially, where I was able to give them money. Money they'd lent me, I was able to return like tenfold. So they'd made a wise investment to stick with me as well. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have any sayings or philosophies or anything that you live by? Yep.
Yeah, I write it every day. I write down, I journal every day. So I encourage everyone to journal. Just whatever you do during the day, just write it down, and no one else ever has to see it. Yeah. But I think it's a great thing just to write a few notes about what you did that day, every day of your life. So I've been doing it probably 10 years, I reckon, just journal every day. So I can go back to a date and I'll tell you exactly what I did that day. But also part of that is writing down sort of stuff. I write down every day. I write, life is always funny. So that's something I write. Nothing matters. I write that as well. And then I write, which I heard Jim Carrey say actually, which I thought was really wise. He said, "I'm the universe having a human experience." So we're all the universe, and we're just at this moment we're just having a human experience. And then I say I create my entire reality, which we actually do. I mean, that's actually logic. And I say it to my kids all the time. But so you only ever live inside your own head, and you are forming the world, and everyone forms the world in their own way. Yes. And so my perception of the world is the world. There's nothing else. That's just it. So once you realise, and once we all realise that we create every emotion we have, no one else creates it. We create it through our perception of the world. Yeah. And we're free to perceive the world any way we want to. And we actually, not only do we have the power, we use the power. Even if you don't realise you use the power, just wake up and go, if I'm sad or I'm happy or whatever, these are all decisions I've made with my thoughts, and I can change those thoughts. So I really try to keep that in mind of creating that it's not even a creating, to realise that I completely control my life. Not talking about my external life, talking about my internal life.
But that creates your external life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But it doesn't even matter because you only have the internal life. The external life does not matter. It's you live internally. So, in my opinion, so so I'm really big on that. I write down I'm the funniest comedian in the world. I write that down every day. Yeah. I actually had we did I was doing radio last year, and had a lie detector test person come in. This guy does court cases and stuff, so he's a legit guy. And I said, they said, what? I said, ask me this question: do I think I'm the funniest comedian in the world? So, just do I think I am? Yeah. So it's not am I, but do I think I am? Yeah. And so he asked me that, and I said yes, and he said, yeah, that's the truth. So I've convinced myself that I'm the funniest comedian in the world just through that just power of
Self-talk.
writing that down, of just saying it every day. So, and, you know, whether anyone else agrees doesn't matter.
Irrelevant.
I only live inside my own head. So, yeah, so you can do that with whatever. Everyone can do that.
Oh, and I would 100% agree with you, Hughesy, that I also think, though, what you believe is what you create. No wonder you're so successful because you honestly believe it. I think there's such a direct correlation with that, and I
Yeah,
love that. I journal
yeah,
as well. I think it's so important.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think the greatest lesson to try and get across to my kids and other people coming along is that you are creating your reality. You can
yeah.
look at it from a negative bias or a positive bias, but good and bad, you kind of are in control. You've created it.
Yeah. Again, I'll say it again. All of life is how you perceive it. So,
Yeah,
and you're free to perceive it however you choose to, and you actually do choose. Whatever you choose is how you perceive it. So, yeah.
absolutely.
So I think that allows people to get the power back in their lives,
Yeah.
and realizing that, you know, it's just a realization. But I'm also big on forgetting yourself now. So do not spend all day thinking about yourself. So I do write that down. Don't get me wrong. I write it down every day. But my main goal is to forget myself, and just because when you're constantly thinking about yourself, you are generally setting yourself up for disappointment, because everything is temporary. So, you know,
Yeah.
so any success you have is temporary. Any failure you have is temporary as well, which is great.
Yeah.
But if you are constantly thinking about yourself, it's just, you are not going to be happy. So if you forget yourself, and just forgetting
Be.
yourself, just, yeah, be, but also life. I remember when I remember I was like I got a distinct memory of being 2 or 3 years old, and just thinking, wow, it's amazing. The world is amazing. What the hell is this? You know, so that initial wonder
Mm.
of, my God, being alive is just awesome. So,
Yeah.
and that's trying to remember, just be clear, so that can be a constant in your life, is the
It's that
miracle.
gratitude.
Yeah, but it's also the miracle of, you know, the fact that we got here, the bloody billions of years of, you know, of descending from whatever we descended from, to landing to where we are, and going, oh my God, you know, for whatever reason, the genes and of millions and billions of years have come to me now, so I get a chance to experience being alive. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, so just the experience of being alive, and just being in awe of that, is just all you need. And that's all the success anyone needs, is just that realization. If you can realize being alive is an awesome thing, everything else is noise, and you don't need any other success in your life. It'll probably come, because you're not going to be grasping at it. So I'm not saying that, you know, don't look for success or chase success, but if you just realize that being alive is the most awesome experience, and then, yeah, so whether success comes your way, it actually doesn't matter. It's
I
because
agree.
yeah. So
Because
that's,
you're
I'm
so
trying.
happy within yourself, aren't you, that it's irrelevant.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nothing matters. That is just, and it's a realization. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's taken me I mean, I've had it on and off for years, and I've had enough to be able to make fun of my life, and, you know, and not take it too seriously in general. But yeah, I really am at that point now of just realizing that none of it matters. Forget myself. Don't take myself seriously. Don't hold on to any grudges. Just stay in the moment. And yeah, there's nothing to worry about.
I love that. And do you meditate then? Because that sounds like you're to get in
Yeah, look,
contact with the
I
internal world.
do. I'm not doing it as regularly as I have in the past, but I mean, every moment is an opportunity to meditate, because
Yep.
every moment you stay present is a meditation. So if you're eating, just eat. And I don't always do it, but I try to. But yeah, whatever you're doing, just be present, and that is a meditation. And I try to, again, I bang on about this to my kids all the time, but yeah. So, and every new fresh moment is a chance to refresh. So yeah, I'm big on that. I'm big on every moment being a meditation, actually.
I love that. That's fantastic. Are the kids listening?
Look, they're in the car on the way to school, and I turn the radio off, so they sort of have to, but they're on their phone as well, so they're probably not listening that closely. But they hear it, and I think it actually has helped them. So, and I think me constantly talking about it is, yeah, they're just. My son would get really anxious as a little kid, like really
Yep.
anxious. But for example, last year, in his basketball grand final, he played well, really well actually, but there was like he got 2 free throws to win the game for his team, win the grand final against Frankston, and he started laughing because it was like the pressure of the situation. He knew,
Yes.
So that made him laugh, not get all angry, not get all uptight.
Yeah.
And so in that laughter, I thought, fuck, he's going to be okay here.
Yeah.
He only hit one of the shots, but he got the rebound, and then he put the ball back in, and he ended up winning the game for his team. So, but I think it was that laughter in the face of what some people could perceive as a pressurized moment. Yeah. Actually, I think some of that. I'm taking credit for me drilling that into him too.
Absolutely. And laughter is such a medicine to deal with so many situations. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Every time something goes wrong in my life now, I turn it into material. So
yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm encouraging things to go wrong, but for instance, when I broke my ribs and punctured my lungs during the footy game,
yes.
I've just got really so many laughs out of it. So, it's a good thing.
Oh, it is so good to be able to laugh at yourself, but man, that is a painful way to do it, I tell you.
Yeah, look, it is, but it's, I've never had so much attention, to be honest. So, I don't regret it, even though I'd like, I've got to get the fluid off my lungs, but whatever, it'll be fine. Give me something else to talk about, laugh about.
This chat with Hughesy continues in part 2. So please make sure you hit follow so you don't miss it when it comes out. And hopefully you got a little bit of laughter out of that, because honestly, I finished chatting to him and felt amazing. Laughter really is the best medicine. And this man has a gift. Make sure you also share this episode with someone you know who's chasing a dream or has a goal, or maybe it's just someone who needs a laugh or could benefit from hearing how looking at the positive side of life is a great way to make things happen. Until next time.